Hi, and good morning. This is our Likutey Halakhot Shir from Reb Nosson, who was Rabbi Nachman's main student. And I wanted to get this class out before Yom Tov, before Pesach, because a lot of chapters at the end of the first section in Likutey Halakhot actually deals with Pesach and deals with the right mindset to have during Pesach, during the Seder particularly, and some issues around. So where we left off in Likutey Halakhot in previous classes was talking about the 4 Pashiyot that are read in Adar. And the last one, which we didn't discuss, we said Pashas, the first one was Pashas HaShekel, which was about the Yidden giving their half a shekel to donate to the Mishkan, which Reb Nosson says is symbolic of the good that they found within themselves, even after the Chet HaEgel. And then he said, after that, we read about Amalek, destroying Amalek. And of course, Amalek catches us where we are weak and lacking in for the spiritual strength. So activating the good point will help us defeat Amalek. The third Pasha in Pashas HaChodesh, in all these special Pashas in Adar, is Para, the Para Duma. And Reb Nosson makes the point that even though a person who isn't in contact with their good point would find themselves falling very low out of despair, just like the Para Duma can make people who are impure, pure, and make people who are pure, impure, the good point, if you're arrogant about it, instead of helping you to bring yourself up, if you think to yourself, I'm so great, I'm so amazing, I'm so connected to my, good point, that could be like the aspects of the ashes of the Para Aduma actually making a person go down because they need to be more humble. So the ashes of the Para Aduma can go either way. So to endorsing yourself and always looking for the good point shouldn't blind you from doing the necessary work to evolve in your avodas Hashem. And then the last one is Pashas HaChodesh, which talks all about the mitzvah of looking for the moon, the first sliver of the moon that appears on the skyline at the beginning of the month. Now, this is a beautiful teaching that Reb Nosson brings down from Rabbi Nachman, that just like we celebrate the new moon when it's just a little sliver, and we make we talk about the moon, we look for the moon, we celebrate Rosh Chodesh when it's really just a small little sliver of a moon. So too, when we're looking within ourselves to do tshuva, just a small little sliver of good can help us to do tshuva. Now, this is more interesting because Reb Nosson goes into what the moon represents. And the moon represents the aspect of Malchus, which is the aspect of the Shechina, which is this aspect that we're trying to bring more revealed into the world, bring down more into the world, which is this presence of Hashem, this indwelling presence of Hashem. And in celebrating the new moon, we're celebrating this aspect of Malchus, this aspect of feminine presence, the indwelling, the divine feminine that's revealed in the world. And the idea is brought up that when the moon constricts, so light in the world constricts, and Hashem, in a way, so to speak, feels bad that the moon needed to constrict. So we do Kiddush Lavona, almost like a kapara for Hashem. Like he's so sorry that because the moon had to constrict, there's less light available in the world, and this Rosh Chodesh and Kiddush Levana is in a way a kapara for that diminishing of light, which hopefully when Mashiach comes, we won't have to diminish anymore. So that's beautiful ideas from the new moon and the Rosh Chodesh that empowers us all the time, how powerful it is to look for just a little bit of good, because from that will come more and more, just as the moon then gets bigger and bigger. And then Reb Nosson goes into a lot of teachings about the idea that During Pesach, we know that Hashem came at midnight for the makkah of killing the firstborn, which is in a way a culmination of the whole redemption out of Egypt story. And Reb Nosson talks about this idea of rising at midnight as a very important point. And he talks also about the fact that explains the custom of Tikkun Chatzot, that people wake up in the middle of the night, which is the deepest part of the night, the darkest part of the night, and explains why at that point, if one can break out of one's slumber, one's all nice and cozy under one's blankets, in a deep sleep, dreaming of who knows what, if a person can break that sleep and wake up to say certain praises of Hashem and learn Torah, that's a great thing, that's a real avoda that can help bring the dawning of this new era of redemption. And then he compares that actual waking up in the dead of night to the whole process of Geula, which occurs when the darkness is very thick and the light is very concealed, and that we need to wake up at that point of the deepest moment in the night. That's the point when we need to wake up to serve Hashem, and that's going to assist in the bringing of redemption. So he talks about the fact that how do we know exactly when it is midnight? And he brings some teachings about David HaMelech, that David HaMelech was able to wake up, unlike Moshe Rabbeinu, who didn't know exactly when it was midnight. And Reb Nosson explains that Moshe stood in the world before Matan Torah. Well, he facilitated Matan Torah, but when he was talking to Pharaoh and said, Hashem will come exactly at midnight, well, he didn't say that. He said, the exact words, I don't remember right now, but it was kind of close to midnight or around midnight. And the question is asked, why didn't he say exactly at midnight? So the answer is because he was afraid that the astrologers and the astronomers at that time might miscalculate by even a few minutes or moments, and then it would look like Hashem wasn't keeping his word. But another explanation is that Moshe lived, and was talking to Paro and talking about the Makkahs before Matan Torah. So Hashem said, I'll come at midnight, but Moshe was nervous to make it in that exact explicit way. So he said, Hashem, when he told it to Paro, he said, Hashem will come around midnight. Afterwards, when the Torah was given, apparently David HaMelech had much more ability to really be connected to exactly when midnight arrived. But we know from our teachings, our holy teachings, that David HaMelech didn't wake up on his own at midnight. He woke up because it explains, and it tells us, our teachings tell us, that a wind from the north, from Safon, blew on his harp, that was not his harp, his lyre. I guess it's like a harp. Actually, ironically, I have a picture of David HaMelech. I don't know if you can see it. Oh no, you can't see it because I don't have a green screen, which I'm going to get. But it shows David HaMelech. I guess it is a harp. So the wind of the north wind blew on the strings of his harp while he was sleeping exactly at midnight, and this helped him to wake up and to praise Hashem. So Reb Nosson explains that this idea of the north wind, it's not just the north from which the wind comes, but analogously, there's a wind, a ruach, and the wind is not just a wind, it's a ruach tova, a good spirit that's not just coming from the north, but it's coming from a place that is where the light is hidden. And it could also be within ourselves, that when we get ourselves up in the midst of our darkness and in the midst of our despair and in the midst of our spiritual slumber, we can set free a ruach tova, a good spirit that is coming from tzafona, from the place where that darkness is concealed within us. And that's like comparing it to the wind from tzafon, from the north, that comes on these violin, on these harp strings, that when we arouse and activate something within ourselves, it can kind of play on our own violin strings, and just a little bit of good that we can reveal. And in fact, the deepest good within ourselves can be revealed from the deepest concealment, that can help us to kind of come back to ourselves. And Reb Nosson explains that not only does it help us to come back to ourselves, but just like this north wind would allow the harp to play beautiful melodies, so too when we can bring this smallest amount of ruach tova onto our consciousness, we can activate the collection of little notes that, if we can put them together, can make a beautiful melody. This is how the melody will be made, from the birur of the good points, that we pick one little good point and another little good point, and one will bring forth another little good point, and somehow these good points will string together and create a melody. And the most beautiful melody comes when we are able to extract these good points from where they held almost prisoner in a spirit of doom and gloom. But you wake yourself up at midnight, you wake yourself up in the darkness of the night, and try to connect to these little dark points, little good points within the dark. And then he explains why the liberation from Egypt happened at exactly midnight, because he says, of course, that was when Hashem saw us on the 49th level of Tumah. And not only did, because of our commitment to Bris Milah and because of our commitment to Korban Pesach, Hashem jumped over the Yidden who had put blood on the lintel post, and he saved the Yidden, and the Goyim were killed in the Makkah, in the plague of the firstborn. But there's also a different idea, that we were on the 49th level of Tumah, and of impurity, and when Hashem came, he jumped over the negativity within us also, and saw the good within us also, and that's how he redeemed us. So the good points that he found in us is what we get redeemed by. And the idea that it happens at midnight is that the greatest light gives birth to, the greatest darkness gives birth to the greatest light. So if I would come to you and show you my beautiful new flashlight and show it to you in the middle of the day, it wouldn't be that impressive because everything is illuminated anyway. But if I came to you in the midst of a dark night and then I showed you how powerful my beautiful flashlight is, you would have a sense of appreciation of the greatness of it. So Reb Nosson brings the idea of Avram Avinu and how Avram Avinu fought the war of the 4 kings. And why did he do this? Because he was trying to save Lot. And Lot wasn't such a righteous person, but he had a little bit of good in him. We learned that because he lived with Avram Avinu, he learned about hospitality to visitors. He obviously learned some good things from staying with his uncle, but also he had a Nakuda Tova, a good point in him that becomes the source of the Messianic dynasty, because from Lot comes Ruth, and Ruth is the great-grandmother of David. So Avram sees in Lot this little potential for good, big potential for good, but buried in the persona of Lot, fights the war of the 4 kings, and we taught that he pursued them, and this also happened at midnight. So there's an idea that the darkness, the peak of the darkness is midnight, but from that, we can be like miners and mine into the place where the good within us and the inspiration within us and the desire to serve Hashem within us is buried in our gloom, doom, feeling of being sunken, feeling of being broken, feeling of having messed up to a tremendous degree, then that light can be revealed at midnight. That's when there's this great power to reveal it. And it says in the Zohar, O you who dwell beganim, in the gardens, but in the gardens could also be beganuta, in disgrace. You kind of really filled with all your brokenness. That's the point that Hashem will see you rising at midnight, making this effort when you so low and assist you. So let's see if there's anything else I want to say. And then this part that at midnight, the Shekhinah, the light of the Shekhinah is very concealed, but we make our effort and it grows. So just the idea keeps repeating that at midnight is the deepest point of a person's fall, or the deepest part of a person's feeling of exile, that's exactly the point, that's exactly the moment when a person can do their return. And the 5 strings on David's harp represent the 5 books of Torah. And with that, as we kind of wake up in the darkness and I guess try to connect to the melody within ourselves, the good points within ourselves, those 5 strings of the harp assist us and help us. And as we attach to the good within us, that is the Ruach Tova, which starts to interact with the Torah, the 5 books of Torah that we've learned, that we can then fulfill this aspect that Reb Nosson has been talking about, this first whole chapter dealing with this first halacha, which altogether, I just want to remind you, all of the lessons we've been doing so far in Reb Nosson's Likutey Halakhot, all linking back to the first halacha, that a person should strengthen himself like a lion, rise up in the morning for the service of his creator, so that it is he who awakens the dawn. So all of these teachings have been awaking the dawn, but if you can get up in the middle of the night, even better than waiting until the morning. If you can get up in the middle of the night, which is the place when you're at the most, where the light is at its most constricted, and you can somehow force yourself awake spiritually. I'm not saying don't get up in the middle of the night, but it's not everybody's minhag. A lot of Hasidim of Breslev, Rabbi Nachman do that. But if you're not going to do that spiritually, in the midst of your despair, in the midst of your darkness, in the midst of your suffering, know that at that point, the buried good, the hidden light is in a way just waiting for you to reveal it. And the way you can reveal it is by looking for the good points, which will create a Ruach Tova. And the Ruach Tova, this good spirit, will start playing on the strings of your 5 books of Moses, on the strings of your inner harp, and that will start playing these melodies of return. And David HaMelech is the one who knew how to play. And the idea is that he was so talented in this form of tshuva. And the whole point is getting to the place where Reb Nachman always talks about, that you could get to the place where you could say, it's Ura, and Ura v'chule hanevel v'hakino, Ira, shachar, that you're going to wake up this dawn with the little bit of good that you have in you, that's the little bit of good enables you to sing the song, to do the song of prayer, the song of melody, the song of service. I was just looking for this verse, this little line that that Reb Nachman always says, a Zamra Dakai I don't remember the exact words right now, but I will sing to you with the little bit that I have. I only have a little bit, but with that, I will sing to you. So please forgive my stumbling and mumbling. I'm doing my best over here, but with that little bit that I have, I will sing to you. And that this becomes all you need. It's like the first step is the hardest, but just take that first step. And that first step that you take will bring about the dawn. It'll bring about the geula from your personal geula, and it will also bring about the geula from Mitzrayim, because it's rising you up and rising us all up as a nation and bringing us all to a place of redemption. So may we all find that during our Pesach Seder for ourselves individually and for all of humankind. May we find the good in each other. May we find the good in what's going on right now. May we see the light that's hidden in the dark and redeem it and reveal it through our identifying the little good and adding like beads on a string, one little good, another little aspect of good, another little aspect, till we actually have a melody with which we can sing a song of praise. So Yasher Koach, thank you for listening, and I wish you a kasha and freilich and redemptive, happy, joyful, singing Pesach, holiday of redemption. And also we learned in an earlier shir that the highest form of speech is singing, and that Nisan is connected with speech. And the idea of Nisan is freedom and accessing freedom and breaking barriers through the power of speech, which comes obviously to a climax with the Pesach Seder. Pesach is the mouth speaks, and the tool we use is the Haggadah, which is to tell of our story, but to use our mouth to sing the praise that we see the light. There was these little beads of light that we can string together for a necklace, a whole melody of beauty that we present and connect to on the night of the Seder. So they say, Kol b'Seder, it's all in the Seder. So I wish you strength to envision that and embody those ideas during your Seder. So good Yom Tov.